I had a young lad, very healthy little boy, that at the age of 7 was struck down by a virus and completely paralyzed. It was the only way I can describe it is almost like he had a stroke, which affected every part of his body, including his head. Mentally, however, he remained intact, which was a very good thing. He lost communication. He wasn't able to communicate at the time, but all of a sudden, from walking, he became wheelchair bound. So for me, it was a bit of a shock. I had two healthy children, and then obviously he was born healthy. He was a very healthy little boy, and all of a sudden, I was thrown into this turmoil of life of having to understand what's happened, accepting what's happened, who to speak to, uh, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't just that; it was the house that we were living, the equipment that he needed, the school that he was going. So it was a massive impact on our lives, not just for myself, for my husband and my other two children. And he was going to school, and all of a sudden, I had this little boy that I found that I didn't know how and what to do really. To begin with, it was all about well, he needs to get well. Give him something, any medication, make him well. But unfortunately, it wasn't turning that way at all. So I was going through different emotions at the time. So I was going through grieving, I was going through anger, I was going through sadness, and not only that, but I have found that I lost all my friends, and having that obviously as you can hear from my accent, I'm a Greek Cypriot by background, and therefore my family and most of my friends were abroad. So I found myself very isolated with this little boy and my two children and my husband. We didn't have any background family here in England, and the few friends that I have developed through the schools, and all of a sudden they were all gone. And I think it's because not because I just think they just didn't know how to handle me. They didn't know how to deal with me from because my child all of a sudden became very, very unwell. And they didn't know if whatever he had, he was catching at the time. So I did find myself in a very dark place with, and the only way I can describe it is I was in a tunnel, and this tunnel was very dark. There was many switches, light switches, which I was trying to turn on. Had social workers, and they were the switches that I have found that the worst for me, because through that time, um, there was all of these different issues. It was so complex, and every side of his story was so complex. And I felt at the time that throwing, I was like juggling. I was throwing all the balls up in there, and I didn't know which one to catch first because they were all coming down at the same time. And it was a constant ball throwing and trying to catch and trying to deal with and trying to negotiate. And that started from receiving care, dealing with carers, which was very weird for me to have all these people coming into my home, dealing with social workers, being accused from some social workers. And I had different accusations, and I had different negotiations, and I had different discussions. So it was a very hard journey. Unfortunately, this journey lasted a few years, but I was very fortunate. As I developed, I've learned. As I was in that dark tunnel, I've learned and developed my knowledge and learned how to manipulate some of the light switches and how to turn them on and how to turn them off. But it did affect me and my family mentally in a tremendous way. Anyway, through my life journey and the development, I had a really fantastic, brilliant advocate. So this advocate has helped me tremendously. And so I slowly have found my way. And obviously my son then grew, and there's still a lot of issues. And then through this beautiful advocate, I met Lucy, and that she happens to be in that tunnel the same way, but she was a little bit more behind me. I was a bit more advanced within that dark tunnel. And having met Lucy, it was so good because I was able to speak to somebody that had the same understanding. I felt her pain, she felt my pain, and we were able to. When she was talking to me, when I first met her, she was telling my story. I could see my feelings. I can see how what she was saying, he was me. He was me. And it was shocking actually at the time. But because obviously I was a little bit more ahead of her, I was able to try to support her and say, well, look, this is what happens. This is where I am. This is how it is. And then Lucy was very passionate, and we became really brilliant friends. She's one of my fantastic friends. So for me at the time, I just needed a connection because I was very alone. She was very strong, and we discussed things, and she came up with this brilliant idea, and that's how the alliance was developed. And I think she was shocked to see that when she just threw that in our modern system of Facebook, the amount of people that approached her, and she was shocked. And then overnight, there were so many people that came forward like me. They were all like me in the darkness and needed somebody. And then obviously then Lucy developed, and we and Louise came on board, and the alliance was born. And the alliance now is the point of contact for children, and people go to them. They come to them and say, where do I go? Which switch do I need to turn on? How can I go through this? And they are guided. And this is where the alliance is helping people out of the darkness, like myself. Anyway, for me, the alliance has been brilliant, because if I get stressed, which I do very frequently, he's an end of life person, and I know every year is upon us. But I do have the alliance to go back to for support. If I need anything, if I get confused or whatever, the immediate reaction is to say, try that, go there. I'm guided. So for me, is a massive point of contact of finding the right switch.